Welcome to the Montana Volleyball Press Conference, joined today by head coach Allison Lawrence. Coach, a couple of five-setters in two very hard places to play on the road. Kind of what is the message to the team as you're coming back from that road trip with a weekend split?
Yeah, really exciting response from Thursday. Both matches kind of agonizing in similar ways at similar points because in both we were up 2, which, you know, there's pieces of that just are what they are. And then I think we really want to look at, you know, what about, are there pieces of our stamina for certain details or certain phases of the game that are inhibiting our ability to finish? Or, we've talked a lot about that since Montana State too. Just how can we get around the corner of kind of finishing when we're up in some sets or we're leading in a match? But I think also on the same token, you're just seeing the Big Sky be like that. There's a lot of back and forth and a lot of momentum swings, and I think that's really exciting. And what I love about Saturday is that we regrouped after a pretty bad fourth set, and a great job by Portland State of being in a lot of rhythm. And we figured it out and had a response and had a big physical and emotional response too. So it was great to feel that kind of breakthrough there.
And back home this week, Idaho State and Weber State. Idaho State is a very good blocking team. Weber State, really good offensively. I feel like the profiles are different. So how do you approach a week like this and go into these two matches?
Yeah, I think both teams tough, really physical, a really good middle presence always from both of them, you know, both on defense and on offense. So, you know, I think we have that as well, and I'm excited to see what that looks like matchup wise. But yeah, I think us and our consistency is going to be a big, you know, point of emphasis, obviously. And I think this time of year in October, with sets being decided by 2 points and matches being decided in a lot of extra sets, I think that it's the biggest thing of who kind of makes the wrong error at the wrong time. I think that's the story of October usually. And so not that we have to be low error. I mean, we need to be low error, but not that we have to stress about our errors. But I think that part of managing this part of the season and kind of where everybody's wearing thin, either mentally or physically, I think will be a big deal, and you kind of have to get into the match to feel that out.
When you lose like you did in the first one, what was kind of the mentality, and what did you see from the team to pull it off?
Yeah, I saw a lot of toughness. You know, I think the back-to-back 5-set losses can feel a little like a compounded, you know, like heaviness and fatigue, extra fatigue. And I think, you know, a loss to MSU in 5 is devastating for its own, you know, rivalry things. But then, you know, we wanted to win at SAC just to win in that gym. We haven't done that in a long time. And so there was a lot for our program kind of riding on that one and finishing what we started against them here. And so I think there was a lot of reasons after that match to feel like, oh, we risked it again, and then we fell short again, especially with a lot of control in that match. So I think it was painful, but a really, you know, you have to see it as an opportunity to not over-identify with falling short, but to say, okay, we're doing 99% of this right, and we need to find 2 points here or there. Whether that's 2 points of hitting an assignment or executing a scout detail that puts them in a bad position, or it's us managing our side for 2 better points. And I think when you kind of look at it that way, it just kind of lifts the weight of we don't really need to change that much. We just need to tweak a few things and, you know, still play with all the belief and all of our identity around who we are and what we can do and what our strengths are. So I think we did that really well. And I think lastly, the huge testament to our seniors, in particular, Maddie, Pals, and Lex, just because they've been with us for 4 years and kind of know the history of those gyms and, you know, those kind of matches and those disappointments that we've had. So I think they did such a deliberate job of not bringing that into this team.
You've kind of seen it all now, I feel like, in the regular season.
Yeah.
How much do you think maybe, you know, like having a tough 5-set loss to a rival, up 2-0 and losing, you've gone on win streaks, you've come back, like I don't know, it just seems like, how do you think maybe some of this help you battle test as you get closer?
Yeah. I mean, I think that is something we talk about a lot of being tested in different ways since preseason. Preseason was, stressful in its own ways. We, for whatever reason, ended up winning a lot of matches in 3. And I think felt after that like we hadn't experienced a lot of 5-setters yet. We had the one at Gonzaga that went our way. But yeah, I think this experience is all leading us toward hopefully being able to say with confidence when we get to the conference tournament, just we have seen it all. We've been in every situation and we know who we are in those moments and how we want to react and what we need to do in those moments. So I think that's really it, is can we build an identity that is as resilient as possible, with as much belief as possible when we get into the big matches postseason. We've got to get there to postseason too. But yeah, to me, that's what it's all about. And can we be learners? Can we distance ourselves a little bit from, we did this and then we won, we did this and then we lost. It's, can I learn fast enough to evolve enough where we can reach our potential by the end of the season?
Last one for me. When you were down in SAC, did anybody call you the Pandas?
No. I don't know what else to say about that, but there were no, we got nothing but love for that gym and that staff, and it was a great match. But yeah, I'm trying to think of something funny with the Pandas, but I can't. So catching me off guard.
Coach, obviously there was the long win streak earlier in the season, and then obviously just a couple setbacks in Big Sky. Just it's a tough conference. What do you want to see from the girls that maybe you saw during that winning streak that you can maybe carry over to maybe build a new one in conference play after a couple of these tough losses? Yeah,
I think what a streak does, at least from my limited experience in the one we've had, the one giant one we've had, is, it puts you in a mindset that how you perform is always how you perform. And I think sometimes there's danger in that, but I think for the most part, I do this and then I always feel like this. I play like this. I have this kind of mental reset. I have these routines. They work for me. There's a calmness and in a feeling like I can really control my own game. And I think when you have a team that wins a lot, and you look at championship teams that do that, they learn how to win. And I think those habits and those things really show up in minor ways that add up to big advantages in matches just throughout their seasons. And you see that play out when we get into conference play, that some teams always win and some, you can kind of see those patterns in interesting ways and those momentum swings in certain gyms. And so I think the piece we can take from that is that really all of that is an illusion. Like, it's up to us to be in that mindset, to practice that way, and to show up in every match that way. So I think it's instructive to a degree. It's irrelevant to a large degree too, because so many of our opponents are so different, than once we get into conference, and it's just a different time. But yeah, I had another thought, but I lost it.
Well, you mentioned it to Sean, but it's funny looking at like volleyball regular season. It's so long, right? It's such a long regular season to get to this tournament, because there's like a month left, of games, whereas like soccer is going to be playing playoffs here in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
How much of that is like messaging to the team that like, if there is a setback, there's still so much volleyball to be played. Like I think we talked about last week, there's still teams in the conference you haven't seen yet. Like how much of that messaging do you give the team if there is a setback or anything like that?
Yeah, no, that question helped me remember what I was going to say. But there was no point in our preseason where any of us thought we're going to win the rest of our matches. That would have been nice. But I think we assume things are going to be really hard. We assume we're going to get beaten. We assume we're going to have days where we're off. And so it's all just about, how we can build, again, the R word, resilience, in those moments, and how our identity and our belief doesn't get shaken in that. And I don't know, we've talked over the last couple weeks, and October is a month that is, midterms, the weather changes, it's darker. You've been here, you're a freshman, you've been away from home for this long now. It can kind of compound into just a general sort of like extra fatigue, if you let it. And so I think because we've talked a lot about toughness and those things, I think we've just tried to build in a lot of reframing in a way of like how much we want it to be as tough as possible. So not that we necessarily want setbacks. No one ever really genuinely wants them, but I think our mindset with that needs to be that those are the things we're going to need to grow and evolve as much as we're going to need to. And I love it. I think we have a staff that's like, I want my life to be hard. I want things to be hard. I want it to be snowing outside. I mean, we have an indoor sport, but easy for us to say. But I love that. I don't think you're a college athlete without wanting things to be as tough as possible and for you to be able to overcome that. So, a general sort of malaise for that type of mindset can set in, but I don't know, that stuff gets me excited, and I think it does our team. And so I think you turn the corner in October where you're like, yeah, bring it on, so I'm excited to see what that looks like back half of October.
Wins and losses aside, just what do you think the difference is in this team from when you first touched the court to where you guys are?
I think to me, I don't know if I would say it's a huge difference, but I think the piece that we've added the most from the first match to now is that, is the piece I'm really impressed by, is everything that was sort of said, in our preseason, not our preseason, our off season in the spring, by our recruits that had committed and during their recruiting process, and in the lead up to them being dropped off here by their parents, everything that was said about what we were going to be about individually and as a group, to me, has stayed very consistent. And that's a really hard thing to do and takes a lot of individual accountability. And I don't think that just happens all the time. I think that is a really rare skill, and it's a rare commitment by a team that's also really new to itself and young. And so I think that has been a gift that has added so much depth to who we are now that I would say has been a big gain from the beginning of the year. But we've been really consistent and had a lot of integrity and lived what we've said we were going to. Thank you guys. Who was out there?